For years, Oumuamua was just a name, a strange astronomy footnote, a ghostly visitor that baffled science and then disappeared into the night. First discovered in 2017, cutting across our solar system, it spun too erratically, moved too quickly, and lacked an emission or tail to explain its trajectory. It picked up speed as it left. It broke every rule. And similarly, it vanished as rapidly as it arrived. There were numerous theories: comet, alien, interstellar shard, and asteroid probe. But eventually, interest faded due to the fact that something had happened, something no one could explain. A deliberate but inaudible signal had been received from the precise region Oumuamua ought to be, if it had continued its direction. A pattern, a pulse, a transmission, bringing with it a frightful implication. Oumuamua did not just pass through. It was observing, and now it might be making a return. But it's not the only one. When Oumuamua was first discovered by astronomers at the Pan-STARRS Observatory in Hawaii, they had never seen anything like it before. It wasn't just its path, which was hyperbolic, indicating that it was external to our solar system, from which it would never emerge, or its shape, which defied categorization. It was long and thin, like a metallic shard, or maybe flat, like a solar sail. Its rotation was chaotic, its light signature inconsistent, and it lacked any typical visible gases or dust found in comets. Even stranger, given that it appeared to have left the solar system, it sped up subtly but undoubtedly without any existing mechanism. There was no outgassing, no gravitational slingshot. It just moved. Some thought the sun's pressure had moved it. Others proposed that it wasn't a natural object at all. But before a consensus could emerge, Oumuamua had vanished. It slipped beyond the reach of our telescopes, leaving only confusion in its wake. But what no one expected was that its story would continue years later, not as a sighting, but as a voice that no longer mumbled, but spoke. Several years after Oumuamua vanished into the darkness, radio observatories continued listening, mostly out of habit, mostly expecting nothing. And for years, they were right. Silence. Until, suddenly, a flurry of structured radio waves pierced through the static, not a random burst, not cosmic noise, but a signal, faint, rhythmic, precise. At first, it was deemed to be interference, perhaps a military transmission or a satellite error. Then, however, the triangulation showed the origin of the signal matched Oumuamua's projected path almost perfectly, down to a fraction of a degree. It had come from far away, no closer, no farther, just exactly where Oumuamua should be if it had kept moving. But this was not an echo. The frequency was unique to Earth's technology. Additionally, the pattern was repeating, artificial, purposeful. It did not call for assistance. It wasn't requesting to be found. It resembled more of a trigger, a message not meant to reach us, though one did. And suddenly, the idea that Oumuamua had turned or was focusing was no longer a work of science fiction. This was a frightening possibility. Once verified, the signal was encrypted, dissected, and taken to the deepest levels of analysis within and outside of NASA. They discovered a flaw in the boundaries of known science. The noise was not just transmitted, it contained a structure, embedded data, a pulse pattern of prime numbers, echoing waveforms, mathematical constants, and spikes that, to some, resembled brain activity. But the most disturbing element wasn't the math, it was the imitation. Deep within the signal was a strangely altered audio sequence, a deviation from our intended greeting aboard the Voyager Golden Record, "Hello from the children of planet Earth." Playback at a lower frequency, twisted by time and compression, but undeniably there. Not only had someone heard our signal, they responded. Or maybe, just maybe, they were mimicking it. Some speculated the signal was a mirror or a handshake, but what was clear to all experts who looked at the waveform was that it was deliberate. Not only did it carry the weight of intelligence, but of memory. Something had remembered us, something far from human but impossible to forget. As attention turned back to Oumuamua's path, telescopes across the globe began to concentrate on the gloomy region of space where the signal originated. Infrared scans, radio sweeps, and deep field imaging were launched simultaneously. And what came back wasn't comforting. A faint thermal signature, invisible to the first optical telescopes, appeared in the data. It wasn't a perfect match to the original readings of Oumuamua. It was smaller, colder, but it was following a mirrored movement, same speed, same alignment, resembling a companion or shadow. It emitted no light, reflected none, but it moved, and there was no visible radiation. A terrifying question followed. If Oumuamua was never alone, what else passed through our system unnoticed? Was it a scout, a receiver, or was this new object possibly a relay designed to transmit a signal deeper into the galaxy? Suddenly, Oumuamua was no longer an exception. It was only the beginning of something larger, moving, and, worst of all, something coordinated, still watching. As the scientific community struggled with the initial signal analysis, something even more unexpected happened: an additional transmission. This one was not the same. It originated in a slightly different area of space, just a few degrees from the trajectory of the original path of Oumuamua. This time, however, it was more than just a pattern or pulse. It was modulated. The signal had a variety of timing, amplitudes, and frequencies, resulting in a form of multi-layered data stream far more advanced than the first. At first, researchers believed it might be unrelated, possibly a remark or an anomaly on the planet. But when the two signals were analyzed using a recursive method to overlay them, a Fourier transform revealed they fit together like pieces of a puzzle, forming a larger pattern that had been ignored up until this point. It was as if the initial signal was incomplete, waiting for a second half. Now that both pieces are integrated, the new structure was no longer a simple remembrance of the great record of humanity. Unlike many other star maps, it was not a map as expected, but one of a temporal nature. A number of prime interval-encoded events aligned with solar system milestones, Saturn's magnetic bursts, Jupiter's or auras, Earth's own seismic activity. Whoever or whatever sent this signal was aware of our location. They knew when we were listening. As a result of the increasing mystery, the archive's observatories were scoured for past data, looking for anything that might have been missed, overlooked, or classified as noise. What analysts found was staggering. Buried in over a decade-old data set, minor anomalies matched the infrared fingerprints of Oumuamua, discovered in multiple sectors of the sky years before it was officially identified in 2017. Some were shadows in a single frame. Others were strange motion tracks, dismissed at the time as bugs in software or cosmic ray interference. But when filtered through the same AI models now used to track deep space objects, these traces lined up in a way no one could deny. There were at least 3 additional Oumuamua-like objects, all following hyperbolic or near hyperbolic paths, all tumbling without emissions, all passing through the outer edges of our solar system undetected. None of them were ever mentioned. Whether by accident, design, or intentional redaction, these objects came and went silently until now. With the timing of the second signal, researchers started to inquire, had these others already communicated? Were we just too primitive to decode them? As interest in Oumuamua resurfaced, so did the response from global institutions. At once, open-source telescope data began to disappear. Servers hosting thermal imaging archives were taken off the grid. Research forums, once buzzing with excitement, now sat in eerie silence as major players disappeared from the conversations. Insider whistleblowers from major observatories revealed internal memos advising researchers to pause all requests for outbound analysis and report all data from anomalous signals to internal review teams. The language was vague, with no clear tone. Something or someone was attempting narrative control, and it wasn't just the public being kept in the dark. Private astronomers reported sudden denials on telescope scheduling, issues, and inexplicable flaws in tracking devices when directed at Oumuamua's last known coordinates. It was evident that this was no longer merely a fascination with science. This had grown into a concern regarding control, containment, and perhaps fear. Because if the signals were real and if more than one object had already passed through, then the question was not if we had been visited, but how many times we had failed to notice. One voice broke through the silence and suppression. A final revelation slipped out. A leaked research data packet from a Chilean facility contained a projection model, a visual representation of the combined paths of Oumuamua and the second object in the infrared spectrum. At first glance, they appeared to diverge, falling into deep space in opposite directions. But when the motion of the solar system was calculated, accounting for its orbit around the galactic center, those paths began to converge. Not now, not soon, but in the distant future, their trajectories aligned not with a black hole or star, but with a region of the galaxy renowned for its gravitational irregularities and area devoid of stellar light, dense with radio noise, and suspiciously avoided by large-scale surveys. Some believe this zone is a dead zone by definition. Others suggest it might be a hub, a kind of cosmic intersection far beyond our reach or comprehension. According to the leaked model, Oumuamua and its companions are heading toward it deliberately, slowly, as if answering a call or delivering a report. The most chilling realization is this: once brought here, objects could be sent again. Oumuamua entered the solar system silently, snuck past our defenses unnoticed, and left behind a mystery no formula or telescope could fully unravel. We believed it to be a rock. We believed it to be a comet. We worried it might be a probe. But now, with decoded signals, matched trajectories, and enforced silence, one truth has become impossible to ignore. Oumuamua did not merely visit us. It left a mark, a message, and a map. And it wasn't alone. The second signal, the shadow object's Kashmir, the historical anomalies buried in forgotten data, it all comes together into a single unsettling conclusion. Perhaps Oumuamua has been part of a greater network, a system of travelers, watchmen, or messengers silently passing through, mapping our worlds, our transmissions, our readiness. For decades, we believed we were on the lookout for voices from the stars. But now, it seems we were the ones being recorded. The question is no longer, what is Oumuamua? It's what sent it. And perhaps even more troubling, what happens after we respond. If Oumuamua was a scout, a reply might already be on its way. And if others have already passed through undetected, how many more are watching us now? Let us know what you believe. Was it an interstellar reconnaissance, a long-awaited hello, or something far more intricate, an ancient algorithm testing civilizations for signs of intelligence? Drop your theory in the comments. And if this story makes you look up at the stars a little differently tonight,